What's up, fellow lords of gaming, and welcome back to the channel. We're jumping in with some Marvel Rivals, specifically taking a look at the patch notes, or not necessarily patch notes, but the balance adjustments for the heroes coming tomorrow. So let's jump right on in because there's a lot to get into here. Essentially, from the way I'm looking at these balance adjustments that we have for the characters overall, is that we're looking at an acceleration to the gameplay. Essentially, the healers are basically being reduced in their ultimate abilities, while you're going to see some major benefits and buffs to the ultimates and the DPS of Vanguard and DPS type characters. So without further ado, let's take a look at it. Nearly all of our Vanguard is basically receiving some additional changes inside of this update. So Steve is getting some nice adjustments to his abilities, specifically Shield Strike is what I call it, but I know the first one's called Sentinel Strike. But Vibranium Energy Saw is basically receiving a bonus here from 60 to 80 milliseconds, and then there's going to ramp up when it starts his ricochet effect from 100 to 150 seconds. A little slight play that they're basically doing as well is when he chooses his Living Legend ability to basically leap, they're going to allow you to be able to now block or shield him while he's basically making that leap. Big adjustment there, because as a Cloak and Dagger main, that was the time I was looking to trigger off as much damage as I could against him while he was in the air. They're also, like I said, reducing the cooldown or the timer, the charge on Freedom Charge from 3100 to 2800. So Steve should basically have more uptime on his ultimate ability in there. Now, outside of this, we're going to look at Doctor Strange next. So Doc Strange, basically all that's happening with this character kit is he's being reduced in his base health from 650 to 600. I don't think this necessarily has as big of an impact on skilled Doctor Strange players as it might be intended. Groot, likewise, is only receiving a minor buff in terms of his abilities. So Thorn Lash Wall, they're increasing the range from 15 meters to 18 meters on his placement. So just expect to see more walls and the range at which they can cast them. I haven't really played Groot all too much to know how to exactly, like, you know, I started playing him and all I did was feel like I was playing Fortnite, so I just kind of moved on from here. Now, Magneto is receiving somewhat of a buff, somewhat of a nerf in my opinion. So they're increasing the Iron Volley projectile damage from 30 to 35 to 40, so his basic attack, and then Metallic Curtain, which was his shield, which is just weird. They're changing the consumption rate on this from 50 to 65, and then they're reducing the maximum duration of it from 2 to 1.5. So it wasn't like he had the greatest shield in the first place. At this point, I would just be like, just replace the damn thing. Like, I really thought, to be honest with you, that his shield, especially if they were going to do this, it would be better off if they just changed his to the same thing like Namor's is, where he's just encased himself for a short while inside that bubble. Especially if you've read the comics, because Magneto has done that more often than not instead of putting up a shield in front of people. So it'll at least in like this form. So I think maybe, you know, I don't know how hard it is to necessarily change those things, but the same way we're conjuring these metal shields around them is the same thing that he should be doing to himself, especially if you're going to make it for such a short period. Thor is receiving a minor buff, I would look at this as. So they're changing up the cooldown for when he basically uses Awakening Rule. So they're removing the shared cooldown time after the duration of the Awakening Rune, so once it ends. Next up, Venom. So Venom is getting a slight adjustment to the animation, I guess, of his windows. So if you use Frenzied Arrival when you slam in, instead of that having a outward push, they're going to change it so that way as an inward knockback angle of 75, so it should be more up than it should be up and out. And then they're also reducing the energy cost on Feast of the Abyss, so going from 2800 to 2500 instead. So that charge ability, we're going to see more of those Venoms in the back row. So that's everything for the Vanguard. Now we're moving on to Duelists. Here we got a lot of changes as well. Black Widow's getting some buffs. She's basically her Red Room rifle, the amount of charges on this is going from 8 to 15. They're also enhancing the slow effect of Electroplasm explosion and on enemies from 80% to 55, and then they're applying a 15% vulnerability effect to hit enemies for 4 seconds. So that should really help her overall. I think I don't really play her that much. I don't play any of the DPSs really, but it should help her overall. Hawkeye is receiving some buffs as well. His base health is going from 250 to 275. That's a lot of health boost for him. They're reducing the projectile damage of blast arrow from 20 to 15, but they're increasing the effect area, so 25 to 32. They're also reducing the cooldown on his crescent slash from 15 to 12 seconds, and they're increasing the bow draw speed during the duration of Hunter's Sights, and they're raising the damage multiplier from 1.2 to 135. Now, Hela is one of those characters I didn't expect to receive any buffs, but yeah, our girl's going to receive some buffs. So essentially the damage fall off that's there from Night Sword Thorn, they're basically the 30 meters, they're going to change it from 70 to 80% inside there. So yeah. We'll have to see how she works, because she was already bit. Now there's a lot here for Iron Fist. I hate to see this character casting Living Chi in my back row, but he's receiving some bursts and some nuffs. The way the buffs are essentially noted inside of the notes is that essentially he's getting more health. He's getting more health from the bonus health. His base health damage is increasing from 250 to 300. He's getting more health from Harmony Recovery, just about 100 from Harmony Recovery. And then there's got some nerfs specifically to like the way Yatji Chung Kung, I can't say that. You know what the hell I'm trying to say. That and Jeet Kune Do works. So they're like balancing out the amount of damage dealt over time based on his skill. So it basically should be ramped up in terms of him doing the damage versus it being just boom, all at max once when you see it. I still expect to see this dude in my back row. Like the skilled players, I still expect them to see that. Iron Man is receiving somewhat of a buff and a nerf in that Unibeam, I don't know why they're doing this, but they're increasing damage from 120 to 140, and they're increasing the overdrive, the armor override damage from 180 to 190. So he's getting a buff here. Now he is getting a slight nerf when we take a look at the team up Gamma Radiation or Gamma Charge, because they're decreasing the damage from Gamma Charge inside this from like 220 to 200. So somewhat of a balance there. Our girl Magic, you know, another back row dive DPS, she's getting somewhat of a debuff. So they're slightly decreasing the damage dealt by Demon's Rage from 80 to 72, and then they're reducing the energy cost of Darkchild, her ultimate ability, from 3700 to 3400. She gets in your back row, she's causing damage no matter what. Especially it's not necessarily because of the damage numbers, is the movement, her movement ability underneath a skilled player's hand inside there. So Reed is also receiving a buff, I guess, in some respects. When you look at flexible elongation, they're changing the amount, the distance for which he can cast that. So it's from 2.5 meters to 5 meters, and they're going to add a knockback effect to this ability, so that way enemies launch back, and the recharge time for a single use is going to increase from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. They're also increasing the damage of Brainiac Bounce, but they're going to from 50 to 70, but they're increasing the energy cost of this from 28 to 3400. They're also going to add a decay mechanism to this ability. So essentially those first couple of hits within that zone will have all the maximum damage, and as you get away from those initial impact zones, then the damage will decrease over that time. So basically look at it as a reduction of 50 to 10 at 10 meters. So somewhat survivable inside here. They need to do the same thing to our boy Winter Soldier over here, but alas, nonetheless. Moon Knight is getting some adjustments as well to him. So they're reducing this is basically a fix to his ultimate, right? Because we all knew it was broken. So they're reducing the Hands of Khonshu Talons, the falling aspect, and they're correcting the damage trigger for Hand of Khonshu. So the previous mechanism has 75 damage when positioned at the center. That's increased the damage of each hit from 75 to 150 in the center and then moving out. So Scarlet Witch, she's also receiving a little bit of a buff here. So what they're basically doing is they're giving her bonus health when she casts Reality Erasure, We all love hearing her scream this out and then just get interrupted inside the skill. But she's going to get 100 bonus health when she activates that, and then it has a decay rate of 50 per second after the skill is cast or interrupted. So just look at that. I did forget to mention on Moon Knight that his team up ability with Cloak and Dagger is also going to be impacted because they're going to increase the healing effect that he has when he's inside that team up bubble. Next up, Spider-Man. This is one of those characters I love to see whether he's killing me or not, just because I tried to play him and some of the skill that's basically behind him is insane. So I never get really upset at all when I see him killing me. But Web Cluster, they're reducing the time from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds on his skill there. Star-Lord, he's not really getting any buff to his towards his damage so much as he's getting a buff to his movement. So his rocket propulsion, they're increasing the amount of charge from 1200 to 1800. So basically just going to make him more movable inside the game, and he'll probably just be like another more Iron Man-ish type character taken to the skies and, you know, causing havoc from above. Now, one of the characters that is receiving somewhat of a nerf, she was one of the characters that got a buff in the first at the start of season 1 because she was pretty terrible previous to that. I think we all can agree on that one. And now they've basically overpowered, so they're reining her back in. So the damage fall off of Windblade, they're changing that from 70 to 60% at 30 meters, and then they're reducing Storm's damage increase from Thunder while she's under the effect of weather control. They're going to decrease that from 16 to 12, but the damage that's there for the 8 to 10 for the allies underneath weather control is still staying the same. They're also reducing Storm's damage increase from enhanced Thunder during weather control from 30 to 25. I still think Storm with the team up with Human Torch is still going to be one of those characters that people hate to see, and that's just still probably going to be banned. Now, let's go across the board for my favorite group inside the playlist, and that's the strategists. They're trying to tone down the ability to just use the strategist 3-team makeup. We knew this was going to come, and so they're going to change the ultimate ability. So across the board, all of the strategists pretty much, Adam, Cloak and Dagger, Invisible Woman, Loki, Luna Snow, all of these characters are receiving increases to their ultimate ability charge times. Now, Adam Warlock is receiving a buff in terms of his healing. He has one of the more nuanced healing type effects of all of the strategist class, but they're increasing the damage of his quantum magic from 50 to 55 to 60, so giving him effectively a little bit more DPS out there on the field. The damage fall off at 40 meters, it will be changed from 50 to 60, and then they're increasing the healing amount that's provided by Soul Bond to linked allies from 10 to 15. So that's a nice little thing there. Maybe they could do a little bit better with his Avatar Lightstream, which is his main skill, because this is one of those healing abilities that has a cooldown on it, and I think that this would probably be beneficial to players if maybe like all the other characters, strategists don't really have this the way he does, but decrease that cooldown time. Now, my main Cloak and Dagger is receiving somewhat of a buff, somewhat of a nerf. So effectively, that cost on the ultimate ability, Eternal Bond, is going up, so from 3,400 to 4,000. Now they are increasing the healing provided by Eternal Bond on the initial segment, so like it's the number of passes, so you get 4 passes inside there and it creates healing lanes where you've been. They're increasing the amount of the healing that's happening per segment from 220 to 250, but the duration of each segment is going to be reduced from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. They're also changing the pause that happens when you're switching segments from 1 second to 6.67. This should make it a lot harder for players to stop you inside that animation as you provide that heal effect. But now keep in mind that the overlap of those heal effects, they're no longer going to be in effect. So they're removing that overall. They're also increasing the vulnerability that's inflicted on enemies by Terror Cape. So it's the same like boosting ability that you have when you're underneath the daggers. this is the reverse. So Terror Cape provides increased vulnerability effect, so that way they're taking more damage, and Light Explosion provides increased healing. So if you're wondering why you're not putting up tremendous heal numbers, other than the fact that you're trying to play the character as a DPS character, then look no further than you're not using Light Explosion, Dagger Storm together while you're basically in Dagger state instead of Cloak state. That's all it is. I really wish that a lot more people would figure out how to play this character appropriately, because yes, you can get heals and freaking kills with this character and not have a problem. But so many people just like, oh, I'm playing DPS. Fix yourselves, guys. Invisible Woman, her invisible boundary skill that she basically has, her ultimate, is basically getting an increase on its charge from 4,000 to 4,300. Loki, like I said, is also getting an increase to the charge time on his ability, where it's going from 3,400 to 4,000. They are increasing the mystical missile charge from 10 to 12 as well. Luna Snow is another one of those characters, like I said, that is receiving the ability, the ultimate ability reduction. So they're increasing the energy cost for Fate of Both Worlds from 4,000 to 4,500, essentially there. So we do have some changes to some team ups, and we'll finish up and wrap up there, where essentially with the team up abilities, Atlas Bond is inside of here. Atlas Bond is going to increase the amount of healing from Frozen Chi. So it's going to go from 50 to 75, and the slow effect that's applied to enemies is going to go from 20 to 30. So that's a nice bit of a buff overall inside there for that one. So Frozen Chi is a really good one inside there. Now, when we look at Dimensional Shortcut, which is a team up with Magic, Black Panther, and Psylocke, what they're doing with these abilities essentially is they're increasing the sustained combat abilities of Black Panther and Psylocke. So they're reducing the rewind time that's provided from these for what it's called Wakandan Master when you do it with Black Panther, and it's called Psionic Disc when you do it with Psylocke. So they're reducing the rewind time from 5 to 3 seconds, and then the rate of health that's lost when you do it is going to be decreased or increased from 0.5 to 0.8. So basically helping these characters sustain just a little bit more damage inside there. So next up, Gamma Charge. We already talked about this one a little bit inside here. So essentially Hulk receives a bit of a health boost when Gamma Charge is currently cast, but that's going to be reduced. So his health bonus is going down from the 150 to the 100, and Doctor Strange isn't impacted by this, but Gamma Overdrive for Iron Man is being affected because, like I said, it's going from 220 to 200. So a little bit of a change there overall. So pay attention to that one when you're playing it. Luna Force, as I mentioned as well, the team up between Moon Knight and Cloak and Dagger. Essentially, the way this is going to work now is that while he's underneath this effect, he's going to have a continuous heal for him for 25 health while in that area of effect. So nice little way for him to heal himself while he's in that team up. Should see a lot more of that. Now, one of the ones I was pretty surprised that they touched, but I don't really think is big of an impact that people might think it is from reading the patch notes. But what they're doing essentially, you'll see it inside here, is that expulsion effect that they have from basically having Venom on the team is being decreased. The duration is increased from 4 seconds to 1 second. So but however, what they're doing is the damage effect that was reducing damage from 50% damage there is being, instead of that being there, they're now adding an invincibility effect. So while the amount of time that this is not going to be there, it should basically be a little pop skill, give them some invincibility while they're there, and then they're out of it. So Penny Parker is getting this from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. So just a little bit up more time, but nevertheless, it's a good look overall. Now, particularly, I think that most of these skills, for what they've done with these, is essentially amped up the amount of TTK that's going to basically happen in the game. A lot less defense, a lot more offense in this with these patches. I don't really see some of these as huge hits in terms of nerfs. Outside of Storm, I think she's probably really nerfed there a whole lot. And I think the gameplay for, the timing for when you use Cloak and Dagger, when you use Invisible Woman or Luna Snow's ability, I think Luna probably hit the most. But I think Invisible Woman and Cloak and Dagger skills require a little bit of timing that I don't necessarily think these as huge monumental nerfs to the characters. The biggest buffs I think are definitely gonna be like, you know, like Iron Man receiving the buff that he is. Adam Warlock, I'm hoping to see that he's gonna be good, especially with his new uniform. I really want to switch to a new strategist type character. I like playing the strategist, guys, so if you need a healer, let me know. Iron Fist, I think those are good. The team up change impacts, I think really the only one that's there is going to be the Gamma Charge, necessarily for how that hits, and then the Symbiote Bond in terms of when you're going to pop off that invincibility shield with them. Lunar Force, I don't necessarily like. I love when I see a Moon Knight join me on the team and they're getting that bonus, and I don't really have to do anything. Just basically they get the team up ability to themselves. It makes Moon Knight a little bit more survivable, but I haven't played Moon Knight to basically know if that's the case. Really, I only play Cloak and Dagger or Thor at this point. At some point I will get into Black Panther because that is my favorite character, but we'll see what happens overall. I hope you guys enjoyed these balance adjustments notes. I'll give you guys another video with some of the patch notes and some of the videos that's basically introducing Thing, Human Torch, and potentially Blade here in the future. Until next time, guys, peace.